Welcome back, Queen, to another episode of Creatress of Freedom. How are you today? I hope that you are well wherever you are coming in at this present moment. If you are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Queen. I'm Annie. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to tune into today's episode. If you're an OG, welcome back, Queen. You know that I love having you here. So thank you for showing up and being dedicated and devoted to this deeper work and taking time off your phone from scrolling and actually doing something that is productive and going to help you move the needle forward in wherever you are in your business or your life at this present moment in time. So let's talk about today's topic around patterns in business. So this conversation is being sparked because of something that I noticed within my community, within my paid community inside Evolve, and why it's so important. I believe that you should be tracking some of your financial stats or some of your data, not necessarily financial, but some of your data, because I say this all the time, the data does not lie. And there is always a pattern, always, right? And we only know whether there's a pattern if we've been tracking the data, yeah? And if we haven't been tracking the data, then it makes it really hard for us to pinpoint why this keeps happening. And so this was something that took me a long time to navigate and work within my business, but it has literally applied within my salon business. It has applied in network marketing, and it has applied in my coaching business as well, because the data never lies, right? There's always evidence of why something might not be working the way that you are wanting it to work. And so I want to give you an example. So inside Evolve, in the leadership area, so if you've got a business and you're a part of those calls, you have access to submit your monthly data. So the number of clients that you've got, the amount of money that you've made, the profit that's been made, the client spend, like literally everything. I give you a framework that you work from, and you submit that and you let me know that you have got your monthly data, and then I give you feedback based on what it is that I see. Because I even need help with this with my business, because it's very easy to get caught up in your own business and the patterns that seem so blatantly obvious to someone else looking in from the outside. You are mind blown, because you're like, how did I not see that, right? But it's because you're so invested and you're so emotionally attached to your own business that the most simplest things can easily be overlooked, which is why I truly believe being in mentorship is so important, because being in mentorship allows you to have that second set of eyes that can pick up things really quick, that can see the patterns, that can see your behaviors, that can see your belief system that keeps showing up, right? And they're able to bring awareness to it for you, because you're just so used to being on autopilot. And that's how you get to change the trajectory of where you're headed, right? Because of the mentor being able to support you through whatever it is that's showing up. And so back in November, December, this conversation, I'm mainly chatting in regards to salon owners, but honestly, like it could be for any business. We know that our industry is usually quiet in January, right? So that's usually like a give me. If it's not January, it's usually February, but it's usually like within that first 3 months of the year, there is usually a lull. There's usually a quieter season where it's either January, maybe it's like mid-Jan to start of Feb, or maybe it's like end of Feb to March. But there's usually like a little bit of a season where you start to have like a bit of a dip, right? And so when you come into my space inside Evolve for business side of things, we go through a very unique strategy that I used to use within my salon that I tweaked and implemented and changed things a little bit to be able to shift what you do in November, December to change the trajectory of January, February, March, right? And you have to implement those things to a T, which means that you need to be more focused on the business side of things than you are on clients. And that is very challenging for a lot of women in my space because they're so used to working with clients November, December, and hustling their way through those months that by the time January, February, March rolls around, they're exhausted and then they're like, fuck, I don't know why the business is not like kicking off to the start of the new year. And then everyone just says, oh, that's because January to March is just always quiet in the industry. No, no, no. It's quiet because you allow it to be quiet, right? One of my clients who was working with me, she'd been with me for a while, and she said to me, it wasn't January, February wasn't her quiet months. It was another month that she had quiet. And she said, that's just how it's always been, Annie. Like, I've been in business for like nearly 20 years and it's always been like that. And I said to her, I am going to disagree with you there. I said, if it's always been like that for 20 years, that shows me that you've done nothing different. And she was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, I haven't done anything different because I've just always assumed that that's just how it was. No, it's like that because you allow it to be like that. And it's exactly the same with like any time, if you've noticed a pattern in your business where you're like, oh, it's quiet because that's just how it always is. No, it's not. It's quiet because you allow it to be like that. December is busy because you amp it up, right? You talk about getting your clients in, you step up your strategies, you make sure the clients are booked, you talk about gift vouchers, you talk about retail. Clients are wanting to spend money on Christmas presents. So you look for those ways of opportunities to make more sales. Your December is good and busy and makes lots of money because you do something different than you do throughout any part of the year. If you showed up to every other part of the year with the same energy that you bring to December, I guarantee you'll have just as busy months. And I am evident of this because this is what happened in my salon. My January died majorly. I would be lucky to make $1,000 weeks in January on my own. And I too bought into that same story of like, well, it's just what it is. Everyone says, I'm in all the Facebook groups and all the Facebook groups say, oh, January is really quiet. What can I do to change my January? What are you guys doing to fill your spots? And everyone's in this like hustle, like scrounging, lack mindset, scarcity. Oh, just offer some discounts, do this, just do that, do this, like offer buy one, get one free. Like, and everyone drops their standards just to hustle and get clients in the door. And that is the worst strategy that you could possibly do. And so when I had this sort of same conversation with my mentor, she gave me the exact same hard truths that I'm giving to you, where she was like, no, I don't believe that. You are having a quiet January because you are not focusing on doing something different. And I was like, oh, shit. Yeah, maybe you're right. And she 100% was right. So then I started changing the way that I show up to every single month. And I nailed my admin day because I knew how much of the business was reliant on me doing my admin stuff, doing the numbers, looking at the predictions, looking at the months in advance, making sure the marketing was sorted so that we didn't have quiet patches, making sure I had team meetings, making sure I had individual meetings, making sure that I was over the finances, making sure I knew what my break even was every single week so that if we had a quiet week, I knew what I had to make up for the next week. And I got really serious about being a CEO of my business. And that was honestly the biggest shift that I had within the business, was really focusing more on the business than on clients, right? It being in the business, because only I knew all that data. Nobody else knew that data. How can I have staff meet KPIs and hit their wage if I don't even know what their KPIs need to be? If I don't even know what my break even point is for the salon? If I don't even know what the salon is costing me to run without even opening my doors, right? If I don't know that information, then I'm blind, and it's the blind leading the blind, and no wonder we're fucking screwed because no one knows what the fuck they're doing. So it's your responsibility as a leader to really learn how to operate the business from a business perspective, right? And then you delegate things off to your team members. So as we were having this conversation inside Evolve, one of the babes got to like the first week back in January, and we were chatting about like I was setting up for their month, and I was asking, different questions that I go through. This the strategy and the formula that I go through inside our private channels. And she come back and she said, "I'm really concerned, Annie. I'm really worried about January. It's really quiet." And I said to her, "Okay, well, tell me, like, what does quiet mean? Like, what does that look like? How many clients have you got? Do you have clients coming in? What does that look like?" And so she told me how many clients she's got coming in for the month of January. And I said, "Okay, it's still a really good number of clients. You still have the ability to turn this around. Do you know what your break even point is?" Which inside Evolve, there is a framework that I've got called price to profit. And so the women know what their break even point is down to the hours that they're opened, right? And she was like, "Yep, this is what the break even point is." I was like, "Okay, so just based on the clients that you've got, like if you focused on this and you focused on this, you could make this money without doing anything else." And she was like, "Oh, okay, radio. Yeah, that seems really good, cool, amazing." And then I said, "And also, I think you should focus on this." And I gave her a list of all the different things that she should focus on as well. And she was like, "Okay, great, amazing." So that was all good. And then by the time she'd finished her December figures and reporting and submitted that to me, then I was now going through her data for December. And I was looking at it, and I said to her, the feedback I gave to her was, "I know exactly why you're quiet in January." And she was like, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yes, because your data shows me that the end of November and December, you had X amount of clients, and only this amount of clients got rebooked into January. So it's not that you didn't have the clients, the frameworks were not followed. So the rebooking was majorly dipped between November and December, which impacted her January, right? Remember, I said to you at the start that there's always patterns, always patterns. And if that's the case, then what's going to happen is January in 6 weeks' time, if that's your average client rebooking, in 6 weeks' time, those clients, sorry, the business is going to be impacted again. So you're going to have another lull. You're going to have another month where things are going to be quiet and going to feel tight, and you're going to feel stressed. And if you don't change and catch these patterns and start to implement something different, then you're going to keep having this pattern show up, right? And so even when we went back to the 6 weeks prior to that, it wasn't as bad, the rebooking, but it was not as good as what it had been on other weeks. And so, like I said, there is always a pattern that is shown. And if you've listened to my episode where I talk about syncing your business with your cycle, you will have seen that I also picked up on another pattern from another client where every third week her business majorly dipped. And it was because that was her period week. That was when she was bleeding. And so that week, she actually didn't have the capacity to be able to maintain the same workload that she would normally maintain. And it's because we picked this up because of the pattern that was showing in the data. Now, when we don't have this data, we can't change anything. We don't know what needs to be fixed. We don't know what needs to, what the strategy needs to look like. Pardon me. And so from my client who was quiet in January, we went through a strategy and we said, okay, so we really need to make sure that number one, all of these clients that are booked in January get rebooked. Otherwise, you're going to have an even worse issue in the next 6 weeks' time. Then we also need to get on marketing because you had those clients the 6 weeks prior. So where are those clients? We need to get back and reach out to those clients. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe they've now gone somewhere else. Maybe they stretched out their appointment. Maybe they're just, life is so busy that they haven't had a chance to call to get rebooked back in. So we need to go back to those previous clients and get them booked back in. But we also need to not be reliant on that because they now might have gone somewhere else because you didn't book them in, right? So now we need to forward predict and we need to have some kind of marketing strategy. And so we were working on doing a ad strategy, right? She hasn't quite got her ad up ready to go yet, but just with those few simple things that we talked about, she's had huge, huge growth and huge change financially because of just implementing the couple of things that I talked about. So at the third week, which was like last week, at the start of the month, she had I think it was just under 20K that was predicted, booked in. By the end of the third week, she'd done nearly 30K. So, and we still have another week to go. We still have another week to go for the month of January. So things can be turned around when you have the right support, when you have the right systems, and when you have the right structures that allow you to pinpoint what is going on, what the issues are, and you can then implement those things. But it's being aware of the data. So if she wasn't tracking that data, number one, I wouldn't have been able to pick that pattern. And that would have kept impacting her business. And if the rebooking rate is one thing that is consistently happening all of the time and it's consistently low, then you have a problem within your business because your rebooking rate should be sitting at a minimum of around 80%. If it's anything below that, then there's serious issues with your cash flow because your clients are what's going to determine the cash flow coming in. And if you don't have other streams of revenue coming in through memberships or packages or even just a different stream of income from network marketing or your husband or your partner's income, then that's majorly going to impact your financials every single week. And that is going to create stress in your body, which is going to dysregulate your nervous system. And a dysregulated nervous system is going to majorly impact your health. Yeah. Can you see how this ripples into lots of other areas? So get yourself supported this year. Don't let the same issues that kept arising last year be the same patterns, the same story that you write for this year. It can change and it can turn around. You just need to learn what you don't know. And now my clients, because I give you feedback, I give you personalized video feedback based on what I'm seeing. Now my clients are able to start to pick up these things for themselves. So before they submit their stuff, I say to them, what was the theme that you noticed this month? And they'll say, oh, this week was quiet and this week was quiet, but I know that it was quiet because we had such and such off sick, or, I didn't work as many hours this week, or, we actually didn't have as much stock on our shelves this week because we were waiting on an order. So they're able to start to, based on the teachings that I've been giving them and helping them read the data, they're now able to pinpoint it themselves as to why these answers are happening. And it's not about there's always a solution. It sometimes is just the knowing of why this is happening and figuring out the answers as to, okay, well, it did dip, but why did it dip? And so, for example, one of my clients, she had more expenses in the last month, and it was because she was like, I don't know why my expenses were so high. Shit, like that was really high. But when she went back through the data, she realized, she had invested in a different mentor that was more health-based, and that was coming out of the business's profit. So we were able to pinpoint that. So it wasn't that she just was willy-nilly spending the money crazily and she was like, where the fuck is this money gone? We were actually able to pinpoint where it was. And it was like, okay, no, that makes sense now. Yeah. So if you are not tracking your numbers or you don't have any frameworks at the moment that actually support you in knowing how to track your numbers, then I highly encourage you to reach out to me and we can have a conversation about what that looks like. If you are a salon owner, then I do highly encourage you to look at coming into Evolve, because not only do we look at it from the data, the strategy point of view, but we also do a lot of the energetics work as well. So we make sure that this business is in alignment with the goals that you actually want to achieve and the lifestyle that you want to live. And then we also do deeper inner work as well, because like, yes, we have this data, right, that shows us, but from that perspective, I also had to have a conversation with this client and say, why are your staff not sitting at this level where they need to be at? And so that was then bringing up her limiting beliefs and her issues around having to lead her team and not wanting to be a bitch, or not wanting to be she wants to constantly people please and not have to criticize her staff all the time. So then that brought up all of her stuff, which then we were able to support her in, okay, well, this is how we navigate this, and we could release those blockages that might be stuck within her chakra system. So if you're interested in doing that deeper work, then this is the work that we do inside Evolve. So I highly recommend that you head to the show notes, fill out the application, and come on into this beautiful sacred container that allows you to grow as the whole woman, right? You're literally growing and healing and evolving, not only yourself, but your business as well, because it ripples within your business. If you are interested in working together, but maybe you are not, Evolve is not speaking to you, then head to the show notes and you'll see different ways that we can actually work together. And there might be something there that sticks out. If you're like, none of that's really sticking out, send me an email, yeah, and let me know what it is that you're looking for, because we can always curate individual plans for different people based on what it is that they're looking for. So shoot me an email and let's see if there's something that I can support you in, maybe long term, maybe short term, whatever it is that you might be needing that extra little guiding support in. I'm here for you. I've got you. We can make this work, whatever it is that you need. So I hope that today's episode has given you a little bit of an insight to really plan and strategize for what this year looks like, so that you can change things around. Because like I said, your goals are achievable. Anything is possible. You just need to make sure you got the right support system. All right. Have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye for now.